The Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California took center stage in January, hosting two of football's biggest games. On New Year's Day, Southern Cal faced Ohio State with the national championship of college football on the line, and less than 3 weeks later in the NFL's grand finale, the Pittsburgh Steelers of the AFC faced the Los Angeles Rams of the NFC in the Super Bowl. Also, a matchup of two of the NBA's most exciting rookies, and a historic streak comes to an end in the National Hockey League. All of this and much more in the January 1980 edition of Back in Time Sports. Over 100,000 spectators flocked to the Rose Bowl to watch Pittsburgh and Los Angeles vie for the NFL championship in Super Bowl XIV. The Steelers were 10.5-point favorites to win, having been Super Bowl champions in 3 of the last 5 years. However, since moving to Los Angeles in 1946, the Rams had a 10-1-1 record against the Steelers. To reach this game, the Rams went on the road to upset both Dallas and Tampa Bay. The Steelers cruised to victory with 2 home wins against Miami and Houston, although the AFC Championship win against the Oilers was not without controversy. What looked like a game-tying touchdown by Mike Renfro in the third quarter was ruled incomplete by the referees, although the instant replay on television appeared to show a good catch. In NFL Commissioner Pete Rozell's news conference before the Super Bowl, he was questioned about the play and said the use of instant replays to aid officiating is unlikely, barring major improvements in technology. He also indicated that he foresees no more than 2 expansion teams being added in the 1980s. The most likely candidates for expansion are Memphis, Birmingham, Jacksonville, Phoenix, Indianapolis, and Honolulu. The Southern California weather for the big game was an ideal 67 degrees and sunny. After Cheryl Ladd opened the game, performing the national anthem, the Rams won the coin toss and received the ball first. The Rams scored on 3 of their first 5 possessions and were leading after the second quarter 13-10. After the halftime performance by the event group Up With People, the Rams held the lead until the fourth quarter when Pittsburgh went up 24-19. The Steelers would add 1 more touchdown to win the game 31-19, their 4th championship. In other Super Bowl notes, the average ticket price paid by the 103,000 fans in attendance was $30. On television, 76.2 million viewers watched, with a 30-second commercial costing sponsors over $220,000. Notable commercials included celebrity appearances from Cheryl Tiegs for Olympus Camera, George Burns for IBM Copiers, Lauren Bacall for Ford Futura, and Orson Welles for Paul Mason Wine. More evidence that professional sports are becoming big business comes from the NFL Management Council. A survey released after the Super Bowl showed that the average salary for all NFL players was $69,000. Quarterbacks averaged by far the most at $114,000, followed by defensive linemen at $75,000, running backs at $74,000, offensive linemen at $69,000, wide receivers at $65,000, linebackers at $63,000, defensive backs at $59,000, and kickers at $53,000. Economics is also influencing the decisions of NFL owners. In addition to the Rams moving to Anaheim this fall, Al Davis is planning on moving the Oakland Raiders to the vacated Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, although there may be a legal battle involved without league approval. The Raiders weren't the only team looking to leave Oakland. In Major League Baseball news, the A's were also eyeing a move. According to American League President Lee MacPhail, team owner Charles O. Finley has a deal in place to sell the franchise. However, the sale is contingent on moving the team to Denver. With a number of years left on their stadium lease, the Oakland Coliseum officials are still considering a $4 million buyout of the lease. The rumored selling price for the franchise is $12 million. One transaction that is already in the books is the sale of the New York Mets by the family of Charles Payson to a group led by the publishing company Doubleday & Company for $21.1 million. The president of Doubleday, Nelson Doubleday, is a great-great-nephew of Abner Doubleday, who is acclaimed as the inventor of baseball, although those claims have been disputed in recent years. The Hall of Fame has 2 new members, after Duke Snider and Al Kaline were elected by the Baseball Writers Association of America. Kaline became the 10th player to be elected in his first year of eligibility, while Snider was elected in his 11th year on the ballot. Other notable players that fell short in the voting were Don Drysdale, Gil Hodges, and Hoyt Wilhelm. In NBA news, 2 leading Rookie of the Year candidates squared off against each other as the Los Angeles Lakers faced the Boston Celtics at the Boston Garden. Earvin Magic Johnson got the better of Larry Bird in their first meeting 16 days ago in an 18-point Lakers win. In this matchup, Boston got out to an 11-point lead at halftime, but the Lakers scored 21 unanswered points in the third quarter to take the lead. The Celtics would rally, and it was a back-and-forth affair to the end, with the Lakers pulling out the win with 2 clutch free throws in the final seconds. The game drew the highest television ratings of any game in the 7-year history of the NBA Game of the Week on CBS. Despite Boston's loss to LA, they are the leading three-point shooting team in the league in the first year with the long field goal shot that earns an extra point. Despite some arguments by detractors of the new rule that it will ruin the game, fans appear to have embraced the shot, and teams that have made the quickest adjustments to it have fared well in the win column. Time will tell if the three-pointer is here to stay in professional basketball. Bill Walton of the San Diego Clippers appeared in his first regular season game in almost 2 years in a matchup against the Phoenix Suns on January 29th. Walton, who said he felt great on the court, scored 8 points, grabbed 4 rebounds, and blocked 1 shot in the Clippers' win. Expansion rumors are in high gear for a new NBA franchise, as investors have lined up for a $12 million bid to add a team in Dallas. They are hopeful to present a proposal to the NBA governors next month. The 30th edition of the NBA All-Star Game will take place next month, and for the first time in 12 years, a rookie was voted in as starter. Magic Johnson was named on over 185,000 fan ballots to start as guard for the Western Conference. The overall vote-getter for the second year in a row was the league's leading scorer, George Gervin of the San Antonio Spurs. Marcus Johnson, Julius Erving, Moses Malone, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were also among those voted in as starters. An undefeated streak for the ages came to an end in the National Hockey League as the Philadelphia Flyers had not lost in their last 35 games. The road loss to the North Stars on January 7th was their first since October 13th of last year, and the streak included 25 wins and 10 ties. The Montreal Canadiens held the previous record with 28 games without a loss during the 77-78 season. The Flyers did get some revenge on the last day of January, beating Minnesota in Philadelphia and extending another undefeated streak. They have now been unbeaten in 25 games at home this year. The magic number to break that record is, you guessed it, 35 games, and the team that currently holds the record, you guessed it again, the Montreal Canadiens. After this year, the undefeated streaks may be unreachable as the NHL general managers voted to introduce sudden death overtime next season. The decision will be passed to the Board of Governors for consideration at the league's meetings in March. The rosters have been finalized for this year's All-Star Game next month in Detroit. Gordie Howe, who will be 52 years old next month, was added to the team from the Prince of Wales Conference by coach Scotty Bowman. Only 2 of this year's All-Star players had been born when Howe made his first All-Star Game appearance in 1948. On the other end of the spectrum, Wayne Gretzky of the Edmonton Oilers will be the 3rd youngest ever to play in the game at just over 19 years old. The college football season wrapped up with 4 New Year's Day bowl games matching teams all ranked in the top 10. The first 2 games to kick off were the Cotton Bowl, with number 8 Houston defeating number 7 Nebraska 17-14, scoring a touchdown on 4th and 1 with 12 seconds left, and the Sugar Bowl with number 2 Alabama winning 24-9 over number 6 Arkansas. The Crimson Tide, looking for their 6th national championship under Bear Bryant, came into the game ranked number 2 in the AP poll, but number 1 in the coaches poll. With the win over Coach Lou Holtz and the Razorbacks, Alabama staked its claim to the national championship with a 12-0 undefeated season, giving up 10 or more points only twice all year, and held their opponents scoreless in 5 games. The Rose Bowl was up next with number 3 USC defeating number 1 Ohio State 17-16. The winning score came with a little over a minute left by the unstoppable Charles White, who ran for 247 yards in the game behind a dominant offensive line led by Anthony Munoz, who was back from an injury suffered in the first game of the year. If the Buckeyes had held on to win in head coach Earl Bruce's first year, there would have been a heated debate between Alabama and Ohio State for the national championship. The Trojans' win, however, gave Alabama the title, with USC having suffered a tie against Stanford in October as 3 touchdown favorites. In the last game of the season, number 5 Oklahoma beat number 4 Florida State 24-7. Despite the loss, coach Bobby Bowden led the Seminoles to a top 10 finish for the first time in program history. In other college sports news, the NCAA has adopted several new rules for the 1980 season. The first rule applies only to bowl games and could find little support among bowl game organizers, who will decide whether or not to use the new system. It is a tiebreaker system where the ball will be placed on the 15-yard line, and the team that wins a coin toss will decide whether to play offense or defense. Each team will be given a chance to score a field goal or touchdown. Play will go back and forth until one team wins by scoring more points in a series. Defensive scores are not allowed. A fumble or interception will simply end the offensive possession. Another rule applies to all games and is meant to address injury concerns. It makes a chop block illegal, which means that a lineman may not block an opponent below the knee when the opponent is in contact with another blocker. The Louisiana State Tigers have a new head football coach after Robert Rain died tragically in a plane crash while on a recruiting trip. Jerry Stovall, a Heisman Trophy runner-up at LSU in the early 60s, was given a 4-year contract at $42,000 a year. In college basketball, DePaul ended the month ranked number 1 at 17-0, led by sophomore Mark Aguirre and freshman Terry Cummings. Oregon State ended the month a surprising 18-1 and ranked number 2. Preseason number 1 Indiana checked in at number 18, but with freshman Isaiah Thomas playing well, Coach Bob Knight and the Hoosiers are looking to finish the season strong. BYU came in at number 19 with Toronto Blue Jays second baseman Danny Ainge leading the way. He may need to postpone his trip to spring training if BYU can make a run in the NCAA tournament this year. In the random sports news section, PGA Tour Commissioner Dean Beeman says a principal goal for the tour will be to make golf more of a spectator sport without changing the way the game is played. One initiative toward this goal was kicked off at the Bob Hope Desert Classic this month. It is a new statistical analysis of players' performances, which will be provided on a daily and weekly basis. Categories will include putts per round, driving distance and accuracy, greens hit in regulation, birdie and eagle leaders, scoring average, and money earned. Speed skater Eric Heiden smashed his own world record in the 1,000-meter sprint with a time of 1 minute 13.6 seconds. He beat his previous record by almost a second and a half. Nancy Lieberman, a senior at Old Dominion, was named by the Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women the Outstanding Athlete of 1979. Old Dominion is currently tied with Texas as the top-ranked team in women's college basketball. Michael Carter, a freshman defensive lineman at SMU, was named Track and Field High School Athlete of the Year for 1979. Carter set the high school record of 81 feet 3.5 inches in the 12-pound shot put while at Jefferson High School in Dallas, more than 9 feet more than the previous record. He also threw the collegiate 16-pound shot put 67 feet 9 inches, which was the 5th best in the world in 1979. That's all for January 1980. Looking ahead to next month, the Winter Olympics will be held in Lake Placid, New York, with 37 countries taking part in 38 events. College football recruiting hits full stride with many letters of intent expected to be signed, as well as an ongoing debate on recruiting standards among head coaches. More on the Raiders' potential move to LA, an update on the NBA season, and much more on the February 1980 edition of Back in Time Sports.